Hey there! We'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you're helping us spread the word and connect with more amazing people like you.
Welcome to Pärents, where parent doctors Matthew Letterman and Alona Pulday explore current parenting topics, share stories, and help bring families closer together.
Welcome to Pärents, where we explore the wild, beautiful, and sometimes bewildering journey of parenting. I'm Dr. Alona Pulday.
And hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Letterman.
Today, we are diving into a topic that resonates with us and we hope will resonate with you as well. How to make peace with the fact that the only constant in parenting is change.
But before we get into that, please don't forget to subscribe. If these conversations stir something in you, if they help you feel a little more grounded, a little less alone, subscribe to Pärents. Let's keep growing, reflecting, and sometimes laughing through this parenting journey together.
And laughing, yes.
Often laughing. Parenting is better when we're laughing.
Yes.
Usually you're laughing at me, but that's okay.
That is so true.
All right. So, when was the first time you realized your kids were not babies anymore?
Oh boy, do I remember when they would not wear any more of their princess dresses. They were too cool for school. They would wear them all the time, and Disney princess shirts, and they would wear the tiaras. And then one day it was just, yeah, that's not cool anymore, Mom.
And you were happy, and you were upset, and I was happy because those things were so nasty. They were so
God, I was devastated. My little girls, my little princesses don't want to be princesses anymore.
God. I don't remember Belle's dress having like dirt and schmutz all over the.
Oh my gosh!
But
it was just adorable.
Oh my God! It was adorable.
Yes.
If you're into that, no, that's fine. I do. It was a sad time. Then they're like, yeah, I don't want that anymore, Dad.
Yeah. Parenting is kind of like that, right? You think you're steering the ship, but really you're just there for the ride. And when you realize that you're just there for the ride, it hits you.
Yeah. And it's like, can you just enjoy that ride? And, even when the scenery keeps changing, can you enjoy it?
Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So here's the paradox of parenting. We spend years pouring our love, our energy, our hearts into raising our children. And if we do it well, they eventually leave. They grow up. They become their own people. And yet so often, and I have definitely I've definitely done this, we resist that. We wish for the past, or we rush toward a future where we think things are going to feel easier. But what if the greatest act of parenting isn't holding on tighter? It's learning to loosen our grip while keeping our hearts open.
So letting go and trusting that every new step, every new phase is going to be something beautiful in of itself.
Absolutely. Trusting, accepting, coming to it with curiosity.
Yeah. I remember actually having this conversation with my mom when I was going off to college, and she was really upset, and she was crying and saying that I didn't need her anymore. And I remember saying to her, it's not that I don't need you anymore, I just need you in a different way. And she said that was really helpful.
Oh, I'm sure. I felt that in my own heart, because I think that hits one of the biggest fears is they don't need us anymore.
Yeah.
But in the same way that they are constantly changing and it doesn't get harder or easier, it just gets different. They need us, but they need us
Exactly.
differently.
I don't need her to tell me to bring a jacket anymore. I can do that now that I'm in college. But she actually came out when my freshman year, first semester, and I was really homesick and didn't find my friend group yet. And she spent a weekend, and we were talking. I was thinking of transferring to another school.
Oh, wow.
And she came and really helped me.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different way that I needed her, but it was really valuable.
Oh, I love that story. And that leads us right into embracing the evolving identity of parenthood. And it really goes beyond the cliche of savor the moment and digs into what does it really mean to be a parent through change?
Because I think most parents think that their job is to stabilize things, don't let the ground rock, try and, to protect and balance, and you're looking for the next thing coming up that you have to whack out of the way. And they're trying to create predictability, for their kids and for themselves. And to me, the question is, well, what if stability isn't the goal? What if the real task is learning how to move fluidly with change, to build emotional flexibility and not that rigid control that sometimes I'm guilty of trying to create? Is that what I would call it a really strong foundation? But really, it's this rigid control of the environment versus saying, oh, here's a big wave. Let's learn how to surf that one together. I think that's where the growth happens for not only for the child, but for me as well as a parent.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, because I think that is the association, that stability means rigid control, whereas maybe you can find stability within the fluidity.
And stability in the ability
To be
fluid.
Correct.
And that creates that sense. So imagine people that are really good at surfing because they know they can ride any wave that comes, versus me. I need solid ground. And I don't know if you've seen me on a surfboard, but I'm usually not on it. I'm usually in the water. So I'm someone that would really benefit from learning how to surf and that fluidity.
That's a great example, because I imagine surfers feel pretty stable on their board, even as they navigate that fluidity and ride those waves. Right. And that there's a peace and serenity about it. At least that's what I've heard from those that surf.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool visual and analogy to connect to. I love it.
So I need to learn to surf. That's what we're
there you go, Matthew. You need to ride the waves.
Oh my God. I tried surfing once. I had a board that was so long that I was out in the water and half of it was still on the beach. And I still somehow fell off this thing. It was just not my thing, but maybe I'll try again.
There you go.
Have you surfed?
No.
Yeah.
I know.
I was gonna say we don't surf together, but
no.
But you don't.
I'll ride a dolphin, but no.
You'll ride.
Surf for it.
Yes, we have swum with the dolphin.
I'll swim with the dolphins. I love the dolphins.
But no surfing. All right.
No. What are some common misconceptions and challenges that parents have? One that I think of is, if I hold on tighter, I can slow things down. If I just hold on to them just a little bit tighter, just keep them contained, then they won't grow, or they won't grow that fast.
And the truth is that clinging on too tightly creates friction, and that growth really thrives in space.
Yeah. And not only friction, but I think stagnation. Our desire is to help our kids grow, not stagnate them and stop their progress. But we get in our own way when we focus on just the grief.
Yeah. Yeah. So holding on less tightly. And it's always, everything we do, it's a balance. It's a balance. For me, one of the misconceptions is it'll be easier when they're older. I'm always thinking about, oh, this is tough right now. So I'm thinking about the time where it's going to be better. And every time I've experienced a stage where it's difficult and we pass that stage, they've presented with another difficult thing. So I have yet to pass a difficult stage and not replace it with a new difficult stage.
Right, because each one is a novelty. Just when we think we kind of have it figured out, the kids move on, they evolve, and we need to adapt to that evolution.
Yeah.
And it's hard at the beginning. It's just like every change. Every change is harder at the beginning, and then it gets easier. And then once it's easy, it changes again.
Exactly. It's like waiting for the ocean to stop having waves versus just, peace doesn't come from, getting to some point or, some circumstance. It comes from presence, your ability to be there in the moment and ride that wave. So I think I've been waiting for the ocean sometimes to stop having waves.
This episode of Webe Pärents is brought to you by Webe Calm, the child calmer designed by doctors and loved by parents.
Struggling with bedtime routines or managing your child's anxiety? Webe Calm transforms deep breathing into a fun and engaging activity helping kids find their inner calm. Perfect for bedtime stressful moments or anytime your child needs a little extra help to stay calm. Visit webecalm.com to learn more and bring tranquility to your family. We be calm because we be in this together.
I think even that notion of it looking for easier versus writing out what is present, and accepting that raising children is hard. It's always going to be hard, but there's beauty in that hardship. There's tremendous reward in that hardship.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's also okay to miss the past. It's, some people have said, well, I'm not grateful for the present if I'm remembering the past and missing the past. What would be your response to that?
And I think there's a both and. I think, yes, that can happen if you're focusing solely on grieving the past and not appreciating or having gratitude for the present, not holding both. If you think there's an either or, then yes, there is a cost to that. But I think if you can hold both, understand that, yeah, of course you're going to grieve the past. There were so many things that you loved about it.
Yeah.
And all these beautiful things that exist as a result of a new beginning, a new evolution.
I like them.
I think one of the counterintuitive insights is that grief is actually not an enemy. It's truly an evidence of love. If you're missing something, you valued it. It was important to you.
Yeah, I like that. So I think there's a couple of sort of counterintuitive insights that we've come up with. And I like that the grief is not the enemy. I think often we try to avoid that, the unpleasant feeling of grief. And then we miss out on the relief when you experience peace on the other side of mourning and that grief. So
not only that, but I think we associate grief with something that has gone wrong versus something went really, really right, and it's not here anymore.
Yeah. And just giving your body time to let that pass through.
Yeah.
Very healing.
Yeah.
I think another one is that you're not parenting a fixed person. You're meeting a new person every day. And if you think of that as like, oh, who's going to be? I mean, sometimes we wake up and we're like, who is this kid? I don't know them. I'm not sure I still like them. But it's joking aside,
You were joking? Okay.
The moment you expect sameness, you miss the wonder of who they're becoming.
Yeah. And I love that because that was the part of the curiosity, approaching it with curiosity. Oh, what am I going to get now? Where are they in their evolution?
And I think that's pretty cool. Like, we're not the same people. Every day we wake up. In fact, I think that's really cool, even in your marriage, to wake up every morning and renew your vows and say, yeah, I am so excited to be here. And to me, it's just that idea that there's this movement. Life is movement. Life is energy. And it's dynamic. And people are changing. Everything's flowing. And you can choose to be present with that flow and learn how to ride it, or you can try and resist it, in an effort to create the illusion of control and the illusion of stability.
Yeah. And that's the fluidity, is kind of, riding that wave and seeing where in the ocean you're going to be taken.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Here's another one. Letting go can strengthen connection.
Yes.
And I think you've written on the Substack a bit about that too, but letting go actually can increase connection. And that's a little counterintuitive.
And I've seen that so often with the girls. It preserves their autonomy. It supports their curiosity and creativity. It allows them to thrive in a space knowing that I'm alongside them, not pushing them or holding on to them.
Yeah, they really thrive. And then when they come to you, it's from a joyful energy. It's because they want to, not because there's a stickiness or a fear if they don't. You get a much more authentic connection and love, I think.
And sometimes even, and I've noticed that especially with Kylie, is if I tighten the grip, she will resist even if it's something that she ultimately really wants to do. Just to preserve that autonomy, she will not entertain the thought or the suggestion or accept the help.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. That reflex. It's like a reflex. Yeah.
Yeah. But once she is able to connect back to her autonomy and given that space, then her authenticity can flourish.
Yeah. Another one I like is presence over perfection. And whenever we put this pressure, I know I do at times, we're trying to make the most of every moment. And it creates this pressure that's uncomfortable and unnatural. And I think if we aim for presence, just to show up imperfectly but fully, and that even today when we were shopping and I'm sitting and Kylie was trying on different shoes, and she's not really needing me to help her try the shoes on. She's not needing me to help pick them out, but I was like right next to her. And there was a part of me that was tempted to get on my phone and just sort of do something to distract myself. And I didn't. And she would look over at me a little bit and she would sometimes ask me a question. But I think if I was on the phone or disconnected, it wouldn't have been supportive. I think it wouldn't have been as connecting versus I'm there and I'm present when she needs me. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing because my jackal judgment came on. I'm like, ooh, Matt's such a better parent than I am. I went shopping, got my own self a pair of shoes.
Yeah, so forget presents from Alona.
I know.
She's like,
kids can handle themselves. Look at these shoes. Yeah. So
yeah.
I
do hate shopping. But it was interesting to me was to be present.
Moment.
Yeah. So when I think you need a little work on your presence and stop shopping so damn much.
I was very present for myself.
You're present. You're going to listen to this podcast again from a different perspective.
All right.
About being present. So the next
children.
So the next one is please don't shop.
Well, before we move on though, with the presence, you know that saying that if everything's important, nothing's important. If we make the most of every moment, there isn't that balance around. Some moments are really gonna move you in different ways, but if everything's important, you kind of lose that a little bit. I think also.
Yeah. And there's times where we'll have like an afternoon and we're like, oh, this is for the family to hang out, but we're not really inspired to connect.
Yeah.
So I think there's a connection. Oh, well, let's just sort of do our own thing next to each other. Or, hey, maybe today we're going to skip connecting. But to me, it's us all coming together and caring for each other, talking about it, and then saying, what would we all love right now? And being open to that being different things than this preconceived notion of this is what connection is, and we have to make the most. We're working during the week, so this is the weekend, and we have to, use this time in a certain way. Mm-hmm. I think that gives you trouble versus presence to what are you feeling in the moment? What are they feeling? And, as I'm saying that, I'm wondering if some parents are going to say, well, if I ask my kid what they want, or if they want to hang out or do something else, they're always going to pick YouTube or their iPad. So what's your reaction to that?
I love what you said, which is you can connect in person, in dialogue, in an activity, engaged together, and you can connect in an activity engaged alone. So reading books together, creating art together, going for a hike, where you're in the space together, but it doesn't necessarily mean you need to interact with one another, is a form of connection. So when we attach to, well, it has to look this way, I think that's where
get in trouble.
It gets murky.
Yeah. So if the goal is to be present, there's this idea of what I think about like, what is a good parent, and what do I have to do to be competent, and this notion of a good parent. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. That means, always being happy to see your kids and always playing with them and always, never yelling or getting upset. And, you start to come up with these ideas of and I think that all puts pressure.
Absolutely. Well, that's the perfection. And you define that. And I may define that differently. And each of us trying to achieve, our our desired outcome and falling short, um, or at least believing that we're falling short of our own expectations, is a lot of where parents feel like failures. But I think the presence is what allows you to be authentic. And I think that authenticity is one of the greatest comforts and offers stability and predictability, even in chaos and change. I heard a really great analogy about roots and how families can root themselves. And some of them root like trees. They'll stay in one place for years and years and years and years. And like the trees, they seed their roots in that one place. And others root like birds. They internally create an environment and take that environment with them. And this is kind of that in the present moment, connecting to your authenticity, even in change, can create such a safe space for kids.
I love that. And it's to find out what you resonate with. It's not right to be a bird or a tree. It's what resonates with you and your values.
And maybe that will change over time.
Yeah.
So to be fluid in that too versus fixed in.
Yeah. I have something I always remember when I'm not sure what it means or what I should do in that moment. I have play, which is PLAE. So I'm not a good speller, so that's why I spelled that. But presence, so P is presence, the LA is loving attention, and the E is empathy. So if you're not sure what to do, play with your kids. Be present, provide loving attention, and be empathic. And I think that's an easy, to me, that's easy to remember.
And it applies to so many different scenarios and situations. So,
yeah. I mean, if you can let your child's authentic self feel safe to come out, you're doing something right.
So if you've been listening to us for a while, we get a lot of questions about what to do in tricky parenting or relationship moments.
Yeah, and if I'm being real, I'm asking Alona those same questions all the time. I get into those same tricky moments as everybody else does. And as much as we wish we could be there for each other in those exact moments, we just can't always be.
Yeah, that's why we partnered with the amazing team at Kinectin to create something we truly believe in, an AI coach called Amari. And we didn't just lend our names, we helped build it and train it and brought in everything we've learned about emotional healing, connection, and communication.
Yeah, we spent years training and learning, and we've created Amari, who is so calm and grounded, listens deeply and responds with warmth, clarity, and compassion. There's no judgment, no reactivity. In fact, we tasked our children with trying to get Amari reactive, and they still haven't succeeded. It's just steady support when you need it most.
We use it ourselves all the time, especially when we feel stuck or overwhelmed. And Amari's really helped us pause, reflect, given us insight that helps us come back to each other.
Yeah, we designed Amari to help you strengthen the relationships that matter most, starting with the one you have with yourself.
And we are so excited that you can try it now at webepärents.com and click on Webe Kinectin with a K to sign up. And when you have your Amari moment, please let us know, as we'd love to hear about it.
So I love this last one of the counterintuitive insights is that the goal isn't to stop the clock, it's to notice the ticking. I mean, you can't stop the passage of time, but you can be more aware of its rhythm, and that awareness alone brings peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to some people, some friends as well, where they'll say, yeah, the best years were high school, and they just keep thinking about high school. And for me, I'm always enjoying those moments, although high school was particularly tough for me, so that's not. But even the past, like college was great, and there's great things about medical school and I mean, there were so many fun things. And at the same time, I'm so excited to see what's next, and I'm loving what I'm doing now. So I think that comes from presence. But if you catch yourself thinking about those were the good old days, then that's a great thing to notice. So you can see if you want to shift that a little bit.
Yeah. And those were the good old days, and these are the good new days, holding both. And I think that's where sometimes the binary thinking happens. And if those were the good old days, then the best days of my life are gone.
Yeah.
That grief or that missing that means that there's that something's wrong now.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, that was just a really great time, and it's absolutely understandable you're going to miss it.
Yeah, and it's all perspective. I mean, I look back, now I'll be like, if I knew how good I felt in my 30s, I think I took it for granted. And I could, jog and run and play and I never got injured or hurt. And now I'm in my late 40s and I was thinking to myself, boy, when I'm in my 60s, I'm going to think back and say I had it really great in my late 40s. So I better realize how great I have it now so that when I'm in my 60s, I can say, I didn't take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I think the grass is always greener.
I think that's the presence.
Yeah.
Is if you're busy mourning the past and predicting or planning for the future, you're not experiencing your presence.
Yeah.
And soon that becomes the past.
Yeah.
And another thing that you're going to mourn.
Topics and tools.
So what's our tool for today?
Well, we're talking about the seasons of self and child, because it's not just your child who changes, but you do too. And this helps align your growth with theirs. So taking it step by step, the first thing is naming both seasons. So reflecting on two things. What season is your child in, and what season are you in as a parent? And the season could be for the child could be learning independence. It could be testing limits. It could be seeking connection. It could be exploring the world. And for you as a parent, it could be something like learning to let go or cultivating patience, rediscovering your own identity. So we all can be in different seasons of our life, and you just want to name them. And then the next step would be identifying the growing edge. What feels uncomfortable in this season? And that's your growing edge. Maybe your child's independence feels like rejection to you. And if you notice that, maybe their silence feels like distance. Notice that. So really identify the edge and where your challenge is with their season. I like calling it seasons too, because we know that the seasons come and go. There's a fluidity, there's a movement. It's not that they're rejecting me. And even if my interpretation of their silence, which often comes from a wounded place, is that they're rejecting me or they're trying to distance themselves from me, I know as a season, it's a piece in time, but it's going to change. If I think, oh no, now they become someone that doesn't like their parents, that's static instead of dynamic. And that can be more scary.
I love that, because one of the things that I was also thinking is that sometimes those seasons align and sometimes they don't. So, for example, if I'm in the season of mama bear and my children are seeking connection, that's a great alignment. And if they're learning independence and I'm learning to let go, great alignment. But if I'm mama bear and they're seeking independence, then there's an empathy collision around what they're looking for and what I'm looking for. But in naming that, we all have awareness of where our growth opportunities are.
Right. So then the third step is to hold the grief and gratitude together. So write down one thing you miss from a past stage and one thing that you love about this stage. Let yourself feel both. This no guilt, no judgment. And I know you talk about that a lot, which is it's both and. If we have to feel either excited or guilty or gratitude or guilt, we have to pick one, versus there's parts of us that can feel guilt and parts of us that can feel gratitude at the same time.
Yes. And I think holding both allows you to have that greater perspective. Jordan sometimes gets lost in that, our 11-year-old, where she was really excited about an act. She'll look forward to Christmas and look forward and forward, and she'll celebrate Christmas. And then, Christmas is over. What else has she to live for? And then if you can have her say, if you can have her connect to this grief and gratitude, you really miss Christmas. It was fantastic. What are you looking forward to now? All of a sudden, her perspective becomes significantly more expansive.
That really gives people more space.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the next step would be finding a shared ritual. So choose a small ritual that honors this season. And these rituals don't have to be big. It can be a 5-minute chat in the car, a shared playlist, a Sunday breakfast, adapting the ritual as you both grow, but finding some ritual that honors the season that you're in together in a way that is supportive of those seasons. So like you said, don't pick a ritual that is in conflict with the needs that they're meeting with their season.
Yeah. And it can be so creative, right? If you connect to what they're into, if you're committed to that intention around growing in connection. I love reading. I used to love reading to the kids. They do not want me to read to them anymore, but they like reading to me. So now I get to hear stories through them, or they both love to sing. So one of the things that we all do together as a family is karaoke. And that's a connection around something that excites them and we can participate in and ultimately brings joy to us as well.
Yeah. And now I just thought about something. I can get rid of my Audible subscription
Yes,
and have them read to me. So I'm going to talk to them about that. I'll save some money. Good. So, and then I think speaking this aloud, really talking about it, naming it, sharing with your child. Obviously, depending on the age, you'll use different words, but what season you're both in. You can say something, I feel like I'm learning to give you space right now, and that's really hard for me. But I'm proud of you, and I'm happy to be exploring this with you in this new season. And this way, you're modeling that vulnerability and emotional growth. I think it's really important to name that stuff.
Absolutely. That's the both and, where you can celebrate their season and share yours and what's challenging, when they don't align, what's challenging about that misalignment.
Exactly. And then the last step is to repeat it often. So revisit this exercise regularly. Seasons shift fast, some faster than others, but staying attuned keeps you connected to both your child and yourself. So stay attuned, repeat it often, and really connect around these seasons, welcoming them in however they show up.
Yeah. And I'm just going to name the steps one more time because we did a lot of talking between them, but name both seasons, both yours and your child's. Identify the growing edge, what feels uncomfortable, what's your lesson to learn. Hold grief and gratitude together. Find a shared ritual. Speak the season aloud and repeat it often. And I like examples. And so an example that comes to mind is a child who's leaving for college and a parent who shares, they're in the season of learning to let go because it's hard watching a child go off to college. And the child responds by saying, they're in the season of learning to fly. And what a celebration and an opportunity for reframing a goodbye is to know that it's not an ending. It's a shared season where a parent is learning to let go and a child is now taking off and flying.
It's funny. It reminds me of talking to my dad at my sister's wedding. And I'm going to say this. It's a little off color. So we'll find out if they listen to the podcast or not. But I remember asking my dad, I said, Dad, were you, sad and wanting to hold on to, it was my older sister, the first daughter getting married to Ellen, when she was getting married? Was that really hard? You wanted to, slow that down and make it happen? And he said, no, I ran her down the aisle. I didn't want him to change his mind.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, that was funny. So he was in a
I
different.
think Ellen listens.
Oh boy.
So there.
Ellen, I think he was joking, but he was clearly in a different season than I thought he would be in.
Yes.
But he was in a season nevertheless, wanting freedom.
No skills to pro skills.
I like the no skills to pro skills, where we show people what just some examples just to start getting that contrast. Mm-hmm. And one of the no skills would be clinging to that bedtime story, that we all love. You've talked about that, and you tried, even though your child's showing disinterest, and you're starting to feel a little bit this sense of, or you have these thoughts that you're being rejected. And if you shift that, there's this grieving the loss of the bedtime story, and being able to grieve that and creating a new ritual, like sharing music, discussing the books they choose, doing karaoke together,
having them read to you.
So you can see how there's this point where you want to just keep holding on to it a little longer, and you want to watch for that.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I love that, and sometimes it's hard. I am smiling as I think of yet another example of the challenge to let go is singing the girls to sleep until they learned about Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and Meghan Trainor and all else, and it was, yeah, Mom, you don't quite sound like them. We're gonna listen to something different as we fall asleep.
So they didn't want your song.
But evolving, grieving that time that was really precious and fun, and celebrating their individuality, their differentiation, their discernment about what they like and what they no longer like.
Yeah.
But yes, it can be quite hard to make that shift from no skills to pro skills, especially when, again, your seasons are not aligned.
Yeah. Well, you read, you just started reading to me. I was
I know.
I was filling the void. You sang me to sleep. So I had to take one for the team. And
there you go.
While they're listening to Katy Perry, I'm listening to Alona. So another one would be wishing. Here's a no skills would be wishing away your teen's moodiness, focusing on when they grow out of it. Mm. And I definitely have those moments where I'm thinking, it'll be, when she's in her late 20s, maybe.
When she's in her 50s. Am I still going to be around?
Oh, my God. But the pro skills is accepting that moodiness as part of their growth, using it as an opportunity to practice patience and non-attachment. And it doesn't mean you have to sit there and listen to it, but you don't have to identify or label them. You can say, this is just they're in this season now where their hormones are shifting and they're feeling really uncomfortable in their body, and there's more impatience and frustration that comes up, and they're needing ease more often. So I can see their good intention, and also say, you know what, but I'm going to check in and see how much space I have. And I'm not going to be attached to staying in conversation if it's not flowing right now. And I'm not going to do it with hatred or resentment, but I'm going to, hey, step aside. I see that this isn't really contributing or helping, and move on, versus, no, this is how we used to do things and we're going to keep doing it. And you need to stop being moody. And there's a rigidity there.
Yeah. And there's also, by naming it and understanding there's this season of change, it's easier not to take that personally.
Yes. And them as well, because they know that they're having an impact, and there's a part of them that feels guilty, and another part that is just expressing where they're at.
Oh yeah. We had an episode yesterday where I don't even remember how it went down, but Kylie got so upset, and she said, I can hold a grudge forever. I was like, oh, well, does that mean you're going to have a grudge when I walk you down the aisle? And her response was, if I choose to invite you.
Whoa.
Yes.
So she was like, kaboom, and then another hit.
And then kaboom. Oh, really? And then minutes later, she was standing right behind me and gave me a hug. But the point being, they do recognize it.
Yeah.
And yet they need the space to feel it.
And that your stability and presence and seeing the feelings and needs underneath the words allowed you to not lose attachment.
Right. It wasn't a personal, oh my God, my child doesn't want to invite me to their wedding. It was, she's really upset right now.
And then she was able, when she wasn't worried about your attachment, she was able to connect to the pain that she might have stimulated and that didn't meet her need for care and kindness. And that's when she apologized.
Yes. And I think sometimes they test, right? She wanted to test, how far can I push? Will she go away? Does she go away or does she stay?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic if you can lean in, but that's hard.
Bringing it home.
So how do we bring it home?
Bringing it home with skills. We're going to bring it home with skills. We got to do it with skills. If we're going to bring it home, do it with skills. So explain it, invite it, model it, and practice it. I love that. Explain it. So talk about how the relationship is going to keep changing as we grow. Explain the seasons. I'm learning to appreciate each season for what it is and help them understand what that is. And then invite it. What feels different to you about this season? Talking to your kids about, hey, where are you at right now? What feels different than it did last year? Are you noticing something? Are you noticing things that are different in me? Have that honest dialogue where you can talk about yourself, you can guess about the other person, and you're both open to hearing what the other person's experience is. Checking in, there's questions you can ask. Is there something you would love? Is there something that's hard for you right now that wasn't hard for you before? And then just modeling it. So sharing your own growing edges and modeling that vulnerability. Saying something like, I'm learning to give you more space, but sometimes I still want to hold on tight. And I imagine that's kind of frustrating for you and you want your space and you want more freedom and choice. So express that. And you can even say to them, like Kylie the other day saying, hey, you were really upset. And at the same time, I could see that saying the words the way you didn't meet your need for kindness. Was that really hard for you where you were holding both? Help her reconnect to those times. And then practice it. Create this seasonal ritual together. Pick one thing you'll do this season. Hey, when Kylie likes things this way and doesn't like things that way, let's go. We used to ride bikes together. They don't want to ride bikes. So that's not the ritual I'm going to pick, even though I have memories of riding bikes with my family. And it was really great. We had a ritual of making pancakes together. They do not want to make pancakes. They want me to make them pancakes, but they don't make them together. That was something that lived in my heart, really sweet, but that ritual is no longer contributing in this season. I'm feeling a wave of sadness now as I feel, as I remember, it was really fun. And it was something that I did with my dad and it was really fun. And I think just to feel that grief, which can come and go, and then say so holding both, and then say, yes, and what's a new ritual I can bring? Like we walk to the Grove in the morning, and sometimes I'll walk with each of them, and we hold hands, and we make jokes, and we laugh, and we'll tell stories. That's really cool now. So I think there's just really telling yourself, hey, there's a new season. Let's grieve any pain from the past seasons, and let's create new rituals for the new one.
Just one last thing.
Change doesn't mean loss. Every season of parenthood invites us to let go of what was, embrace what is, and trust what's coming.
I like that very much. All right. Well, if today's insights offered something unexpected, if they stirred reflection or peace or just made your life a little more wonderful, we'd love to hear from you. Please rate and review We Be Parents and share your own seasons of parenting with us at parents@webetogether.com. We are growing with you. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.